What's up, guys? Jabril here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Retro Recap. Now, for you guys who've never seen the show before, I'm just a guy who loves retro games and wants to tell you guys about the most important retro game stories that I've bumped to in recent history. Now, this show happens almost every other week, sometimes on a weekly basis, and it all depends on the frequency of the news. Actually, I did take off last Saturday so I can have a little Thanksgiving recess. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, but we're back to it now. So some of these stories are a little bit on the older side, and then some of them are a little bit newer. Some of them are as old as, a week and a half, 2 weeks at this point, because again, I did take a week off, so things got a little bit delayed. But rather than not talk about it, I just tacked it onto the existing episode I had already. And so we're going to cover about 4 stories this week. Now, before I get started, I did want to give you guys a heads up that the same time that this video goes up, I'm also going to have a review for the Nintendo Game & Watch. I actually have it up there on my cabinet. But yeah, love that device. Wanted to give you guys a couple minutes to just talk about it and give you guys my thoughts about it, and kind of open up the comment section as a forum for your guys' thoughts on the Nintendo Game & Watch. So keep an eye out for that if that's something that interests you. But let's just get straight into the story. So we're going to start off with something that was actually quite the controversy in the retro games community, and that is about the Warrior 64. So a company by the name of Intech Gaming unveiled a new HDMI compatible console that would output N64 games in an HD signal for modern TVs. Now, specifically the N64, getting that signal in HD has been a major thing in the retro games community. There's so many awesome games on that console, and people are always trying to play them at the highest fidelity possible, and it's not the easiest console to be able to output at HD resolutions. So it was highly anticipated because as far as an HD N64 output goes, the best option was the Ultra HDMI mod for the N64, but that's a pricey kind of option, and it requires some installation and some soldering skills, for example. So that's kind of like a block for some people who are not able to solder, who either don't have the materials to do that, or who are a little bit tight on cash. So the Warrior 64 used an original N64 motherboard, a Hori style pad, and a nice looking case for it all, and it's priced competitively actually. However, the controversy is that the signal output is way subpar from what they were advertising, and Intex Gaming's response was a revised version, but you have to keep in mind the version that is actually coming out with the subpar signal has already been kickstarted. People already paid for that and stuff like that, so their kind of solution of like, we'll just release a better one is not necessarily a good solution for a lot of people who've already invested their money into it. And again, if they're not already trying to throw out a whole bunch of money for that kind of Ultra 64 mod, which again is an amazing option and outputs these games about as high quality a signal as you can possibly extract from these ROMs, the fact that they offer another console to just release at some point is not really a good solution for this case. So that was quite a big scenario, and I had my eye on it because again, I have a lot of N64 games. I have a working Nintendo 64, but if there was a means for me to inexpensively emulate those games accurately at a really high resolution, that would be awesome. Again, I have an HD TV, and I'm kind of locked to this room to be able to play a lot of my retro consoles because I don't have a lot of the HDMI to composite converters and stuff like that, and I don't really like the signals they output a lot. I'll use them for game capturing and stuff like that, but for actually playing, I like just the composites going into TV and whatever that signal is. And so I'm not able to play it on my HDMI TV. So if there was like a elegant solution to this where they have a console, you put your regular N64 games into it, and next thing you know, you're playing at 720 1080p on an HD display through HDMI, I think that would be an amazing thing. And it's a shame that the Warrior 64 doesn't seem to be able to output that, and it seemed closer to some of the stuff you'd see like with a Retron, for example, which is unfortunate. And it seemed like I would highly recommend you go check out Metal Jesus Rocks' entire video that he did on this. An amazing video, and it seems like some of the people at Intech Gaming side didn't even really understand what the issue was for quite a while until he really broke it down for them, and it seemed to be like news to them that this was at all even an issue, and that what they were saying isn't necessarily accurate from a retro gaming standpoint. So that was a kind of mildly concerning thing for me though, but I hope this all gets kind of rectified and they find some way to be able to get people a really solid product in their hand for the money that they already paid. I'm hoping that for them. So the next one, moving on to a console that's actually, I think, overwhelmingly positive kind of news about, with exception for one thing. The Polymega is unfortunately being delayed, but let's talk about the Polymega. So the Polymega launch has been pushed into early 2021, with the site listing February as the proposed launch month now. According to Playmail, a major retail partners of ours, has sold many systems, has ongoing issues communicating the status of the project to us, and has moved the release dates without notifying us. Playmagic has hinted that because it hasn't known if Walmart will even fulfill the orders, it can't ship the units as manufactured to other buyers. We assume that there would be a resolution to this problem in a few weeks, but due to the nature, size, and reputation of the company, the statement continues. But barring some immediate turnaround change in behavior, there will be likely project-wide impact that will delay the release into 2021. Playmagic has said it's happy for customers. It says it's happy for customers impacted by the delay to apply for a refund, for example, so they have no problem giving you your money back. But for those who don't know, the Polymega is like an upcoming retro console that plays Sega Saturn, Sony PlayStation, Sega Mega CD, the Neo Geo CD, PC Engine, TurboGrafx 16, and then there's an NES, SNES, Mega Drive 32X and PC Engine TG16 attachment that you can add for it for the cartridge-based games, and it kind of has like interchangeable modules. So this console is a really, really amazing thing, and I believe it was like 2 years ago, something like that, they actually showed it off for the first time, and I was mind blown. I'm like, this is revolutionary. And apparently, not only does it have like these interchangeable modules, it's a really awesome design, really high quality experience, genuinely speaking, from a hardware perspective. But on top of that, the signals they output and the game emulation, to me, from what I understand, is, I mean, top tier stuff. So it's a shame that this is gonna get pushed off, but it seems like rather than like actual performance issues on the console or anything like that, this is entirely just production pipeline, retail partner stuff that's kind of keeping this console away, which is really, really unfortunate. But when I heard this story, I was like, oh, I hope it's not like the console having problems, because I was worried that maybe like review copies went out and people were experiencing a lot of major issues with this, and so they're delaying it for that reason. But it seems like no, it's entirely like after manufacture actually getting these consoles into the hands of people, and those relationships between them and retailers, it's what fell apart a little bit. So they were kind of like their hands was forced and they had to push it off. But at least the delay is not super significant. February, not too bad at all. So I'm not mad at it. And I would love to get my hands on one of these consoles. Unfortunately, right now, I don't think I was able to get a pre-order or anything like that. But I'm going to keep my eyes out, and when it's closer to the launch, if I'm able to get a console, I'm definitely going to be able to pick one up. The next one, we got some really cool hardware, prototype type situations that were kind of showed off by Sega. So we've gotten some awesome information emulation from the Video Game History Foundation about a scrapped VR headset from Sega. Sega sought to create an affordable VR solution as an add-on for their home console, the Sega Genesis. Now keep in mind, during the 90s, they were not the only ones trying to figure out how to bring VR into the game industry. In many ways, tech just wasn't quite caught up yet. Obviously, Nintendo had the Virtual Boy, but they had a target MSRP of just $200, and was apparently officially canceled because they claimed that the experience was so realistic and immersive that it posed a high risk of injury from players moving around while using it. However, a more likely factor of the cancellation was feedback Sega received from the Stanford Research Institute, which warned of headaches, dizziness, and sickness, particularly in younger users and children. So obviously, they're kind of, if you actually see the video, I'm going to include some footage down below. Obviously, if you look at the footage, even by the 90s standards, I don't think anyone was arguing that it looked so realistic that it, posed a risk. However, we have seen with some of the VR headsets now that people have like hurt themselves accidentally getting a little bit too immersed in the games. There's videos of that. But yeah, obviously, it's probably just a motion sickness issue type thing. That's still tech that they're trying to figure out now, how to avoid motion sickness for certain people and stuff like that. And they have ways of kind of counteracting it with the way they play around with like motion blur and stuff like that. But yeah, it's more likely that this was actually just, a lot of people were probably getting sick and they're like, all right, the tech's not here yet, we're not going to put this out. And also coming off the Genesis, that was a real high, but they were putting out a lot of pieces of hardware at that point, and not everything was hitting, and they were about to start this weird stretch of time where they move on to the Saturn and the Dreamcast and stuff like that, which also didn't hit. So the fact that they probably didn't put something else out that likely probably wouldn't have done too well is not necessarily a bad thing. And then lastly, we also got a look at a prototype handheld with the codename Venus. So this was kind of, Sega's another move into the handheld industry, which is really, really interesting. Again, they had some really dope moves and hardware back in that time. And again, I'm going to link a video or a picture down below so you can actually get a look at how this thing looked. I actually kind of like the look of it. It's actually pretty elegant and cool. But again, the 90s handheld space was such a weird thing. Again, and then the 89 Game Boy, that when that came out, that just dominated for so long. And the fact that they were able to release, again, the Pocket did well. Then the color that extended it all the way, past 1998 from 89 was just an incredible run, and just Nintendo was dominating it. So Sega naturally wanted to push back against it a little bit, but just destabilizing that massive hold that Nintendo had at the time is no easy feat for pretty much anybody. So I don't blame them for not being able to get too much traction in the handheld space, because again, very few have been able to. I mean, PlayStation threw their little boots into the race and stuff like that, and the PSP did really well, but then look at what happened to the Vita, and again, the PSP did well relatively, but compared to the Nintendo, obviously Nintendo overwhelmingly outsold them. But again, not an easy space, and it was cool to see these kind of like alternate reality takes of what Sega could have been doing and what they could have looked like from a hardware perspective at one point if some of these devices came out. But again, we know Sega has a ton of canceled devices, especially, like post Dreamcast and stuff like that. So very interesting stuff. So last story we can get into is Capcom is releasing a mini arcade system. Now lately we've gotten a lot of mini systems and arcade systems, and everybody trying to throw their hats into that. And it seems like Capcom's throwing out another thing. Now keep in mind, this is not their first kind of foray into the arcade box plug and play type situation. They did have that awesome fighting stick with the giant Capcom logo and stuff like that. That was really awesome. So this one's different than that. So Capcom revealed that it's about to release a mini arcade machine packed with classic titles. It's called the Retro Station. It has an 8-inch screen and weighs 2.1 kilograms. And it comes with the following titles. So we got Mega Man: The Power Battle, Mega Man 2: The Power Fighters, Mega Man X, Mega Man Soccer, Mega Man in Base, the Japanese console version. Excellent game. Love that game on Game Boy. We have Street Fighter 2, of course, Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, which I also love that game. This unit has been listed for sale on Amazon Japan, and while the page does not currently have pricing information, according to Siliconera, it previously said 21,780 yen, which is about $210, US dollars at least. It's reported that Gantaku, the company that handled the production of the thematically similar Neo Geo Mini production, is the firm behind this particular unit. And from what I understand, the Neo Geo Mini has been pretty well received. The Retro Station will release in Japan on December 1st, so that's past at this point, so it's already out. But hopefully we get that stateside. This thing looks really awesome. I love the retro design of this thing, and just what an awesome collector's item to add to kind of like if you had an arcade room or a retro gaming room, to add that to that. You pop that on a little table like this or something like that, and you can kind of just sit there, maybe pull up a chair or a stool or something like that. I think this thing is really awesome. I think it's priced pretty decently. The game selection, I'm not angry at. We do have multiple versions of kind of the same game. Like if you have like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Super Street Fighter 2 the Championship Edition, do you really need a copy of Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2? You know what I mean? Which are just kind of like lesser versions of that. So you kind of have like multiple versions of the same game, and the lesser versions you don't really have any reason to touch, from what I understand. But generally speaking, it's really cool seeing the Power Battle. Mega Man, that's a really underrated game. Cool stuff, really fun. A lot of arcades have it. And yeah, super underrated. A lot of people don't really know that game. So yeah, I'm not mad at the game selection at all. Of course, when you have Capcom, you have so many titles that they could pull from that there's a million things I could name that I would like to see on a console like this. But as long as the emulation is really high quality, the build quality is right, and that screen is really solid, they get the aspect ratios, they get all like, scanline stuff, all that right, hey, I ain't mad at it. And it's something that I don't necessarily have the space for right now, so I probably wouldn't get it myself. But in the future date, if I'm able to get my hands on one of this and I have, a dedicated gaming room or something like that, I'd easily be able to pick this up because I love me some Capcom. So that's the show for you guys today. 4 stories. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback, whatever, leave that down in the comment section below and let me know what your thoughts are. I've really enjoyed, and I have to be thankful for all the success and support you guys have showed for this show. And again, it's not a lot of views from like YouTube standpoint, but for me, it's a lot, and I really appreciate it. We've had multiple episodes of Retro Recap break 100 views, which for us is really good. Again, we're only at 91 subs right now. We're a small channel, we're trying to grow, but I really appreciate any support that you guys throw our way. So again, if you have any fans or friends that like retro game console content, be sure to share this video with them. Like, comment, subscribe, do the whole joint. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Until next time, this is Jabril from Neo Vintage Games, and this was Retro Recap. See you guys. Bye.